Hello there and welcome to BoBeats. In today's episode, we are talking about how to record your hardware synth setup. And this is part 3 out of a 3-part series that I'm doing together with reverb.com. And if you missed part 1 or part 2, you can check the description. There are a couple of links there. And in part 1, I sort of go over the basics, what you need to build a hardware synth setup. And in part 2, I show you, I put together a couple of different hardware synth setups, show you what it takes, what you need, and how it sounds. So if you missed part 1 or 2, go and check them out first. Today's video will be pretty beginner friendly, so if you are more of an advanced user, I'm not sure that you have much to get from this video. I will go over different recording options for a beginner who wants to record their hardware synth setup and might not know where to start. So that's the aim of the video. So let's start off with a hot topic, audio quality. On many forums and in discussions, you will see people advocating for cards, audio interfaces or recorders that can do 96 kilohertz, 24-bit and higher recordings. And while it does impact the quality of the recording, I would definitely say that when it comes to audio quality, almost any sound card, audio interface or recorder will work if you're a beginner. A lot of famous and good artists and professional people that I know and that I know of, they record in 44.1 kilohertz and 16 bits, which is the old CD standard. So what I'm saying is that if you're a beginner, don't worry too much about the specifications and the audio quality hype. So you want to record your hardware synths, but where do you begin? Well, over here I have a little recorder. This is one good option if you want to record your hardware synth setup. This is a Zoom H6. It's a 6-channel audio recorder. It's portable, it's battery powered. As you can see, I use rechargeable batteries in it. Now, there are plenty of these on the used market, and you have a lot of options to pick from in various price ranges from like $50 up to thousands of dollars. These can often double as an audio interface. So some of them, this one for example, can be connected to a computer over USB and work as an audio interface, so you can record into your DAW with it. However, there's 2 big drawbacks. One being that I've experienced pretty bad latency latency latencycy. That is the delay between you hitting record in the computer and something actually being recorded inside the computer. For example, the delay between you hitting the key on a keyboard and a virtual instrument playing back the sound. So I've had a lot of bad experiences with latency and these sort of devices. And the second drawback, if you're using this as an audio interface, is that it doesn't really support a good output if you want to output to a pair of speakers. It doesn't offer these full-sized output jacks to connect to powered speakers. Next up, let's talk audio interfaces or sound cards, as I'm grown up saying, but I think sound cards refers to those PCI-based cards that you put into the actual computer and then maybe have a breakout box. Audio interfaces are plenty. There's a ton out there used, and you don't really need to buy the latest and greatest. You can often buy a generation older or 2 generations older cards. Just make sure that drivers for the audio interfaces you're picking up are up to date. You check that by going to the manufacturer website and check for drivers and make sure that it works with your operating system. When you're picking an audio interface, there's definitely a few things to consider. Firstly, how many inputs and outputs do you need? Now, take it from me, who has been doing this for many years, I think 17 years now, you rarely need that many outputs unless you know from a start that you will want to output a ton of tracks from a ton of channels from your DAW into, say, some kind of mixer. But normally, I never use more than, say, 4 outputs, so 2 stereo outputs out of the computer. Now, when it comes to inputs, there's a basic rule. Always try and buy something with more inputs than you think you need. Because when you run out, you run out, and it's very annoying. But there's a solution to the input problem. If you buy an audio interface with ADAT, you can often expand it with 8 additional channels. You buy an ADAT expansion. You can't use it standalone, it doesn't work standalone. You need an audio interface, connect it over ADAT, and you get the additional inputs and outputs. So that's a very simple way of expanding your audio interface. So I think that if it's within your budget, try and get an audio interface with ADAT. And sometimes you can buy an older card with ADAT for a little bit less money used. So let's go to reverb.com and I'll show you what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a used audio interface. So talking audio interfaces, I would check for Focusrite, Scarlett. And as you can see here, there are plenty on the used market. Now, which one should you get? Well, I wouldn't get anything smaller than the 18i8. And the reason being is that you can find it used for a good price, and it has 4 inputs here on combo jacks in the front, 2 headphones outputs, and it sports the ADAT inputs. You get 8 additional inputs, as well as this digital input over here, which adds another 2. That's how they come up to 18 inputs. So it only sports 8 inputs from the get-go, but you can expand it up to 18 inputs, which is really cool. I also know Steinberg has some pretty decent audio interfaces. Here, for example, is their UR series, and from what I hear, these are very solid audio interfaces as well. And as you can see here, here's one for 80 euros, so that's a pretty good deal. And of course, you're not getting the full expandability here. If we take a look at the back, you can see that it has phantom power, it has MIDI on it, it has the line outputs, but it doesn't have the ADAT or the digital in and outputs. So you're stuck with the I/O that you get with it. But for the money, especially compared to the portable recorders, it's a bargain. Oh, and another thing I didn't want to forget is that there are plenty of audio interfaces that you can use with an iPad, tablet, or smartphone. So that can be a great solution as well, because, for example, Cubase on an iPad is much less expensive than getting Cubase on a computer. Another great way to record your synths could be to get a synth with an integrated audio interface. For example, the Ultranova from Novation has a built-in audio interface. You can hook it up to a computer and you don't need a recorder and you don't need an audio interface. Next up, let's talk mixers. And let me start off with a little warning here. For most setups, a normal mixer won't do that much, unless you really need the utility it brings, for example, being able to control multiple channels hands-on with EQ. But a normal mixer often only has a couple of outputs and you're still left with needing an audio interface or a recorder. And some of the cheaper mixers only have a stereo output anyway, so you can't record multiple tracks at once. So it's something to keep in mind, because in most situations you won't really need a dedicated mixer. But what you could get is a USB mixer. This is a mixer with a USB connection because it has a built-in audio interface. So you can actually use it as a standalone mixer, and you can use it as an audio interface sending channels of audio to the computer. However, most USB mixers are not multi-tracking. This means that they'll only be sending, say, 2 or 4 channels of audio to the computer, which again doesn't let you record multiple channels and gives you less options when it comes to mixing. You'll have to do a lot of mixing beforehand. Enter the multi-tracking USB mixers. These are mixers that can send multiple channels of audio. For example, Behringer has a few, and there's the Soundcraft MTK series, a signature MTK. So there's a signature and there's a signature MTK. The MTK is the multi-tracking version. And these are great options because it gives you the hands-on flexibility of having a mixer, but it can also send multiple channels of audio to the computer. A downside, however, compared to an audio interface, is that the audio interface often has a bit better latency. So if you are doing a very software heavy with soft synths setup, I don't think that a multi-tracking USB mixer is your best option. You should probably get a little bit more of a higher end audio interface instead. But if you're doing a hardware synth setup, I think that a USB mixer that can handle multiple channels is a really good option, because you're not really paying that much extra for it. It's often very nicely priced compared to an audio interface solution with the same amount of channels, at least to my experience when I've been looking around. So these were just a few options that you have when it comes to recording your hardware synth setup. And if you want to go like super full hipster with specialty coffee, Then there's always the option of going for cassettes, a cassette deck. But that's a topic for maybe another video or another channel, so we'll leave it at that. But it's pretty cool. You can go with cassettes if you want to. So thank you so much for checking out this video. If you have any comments about how to record your synths, put it in the comments section. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support future videos, head over to patreon.com/BoBeats. So thank you Reverb for sponsoring the video. If you want to sell or buy used equipment, go over there. There's also a link in the description to Reverb. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching and have a super pleasant day.